We're going through the Pacific Division for the NBA draft. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm a Swiftie. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As sports slow down across summer, FanDuel still got stuff to interest you. That is right, they're hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus every day. Something for everyone, all day, every day, all summer long. Go to fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms, so thumb it up and double bang and leave your comments down below. The fifth of the sixth NBA divisions we are doing here, recapping the draft. This one is the Pacific Division, so we're all looking out west. Not as many high draft picks in this division. In fact, just the one lottery pick out here. This was a pretty strong division throughout the season. So let's just start digging into these teams right now. We are going to start with the wrong button. What a great start to the show, Josh, because we're actually going to start with the Golden State Warriors, not the Denver Nuggets. That was the last show. We're starting with the Golden State Warriors here for the in the Pacific Division. And they did not have a first-round pick. That first-round pick went long ago. I think it was the Andre Iguodala salary dump, maybe. Anyway, it ended up in Washington, that pick. And the Warriors ended up with pick number 52, which was their own second-round pick, but they didn't start with that second-round pick on the day. There's just a lot of trading that happened. Hard to really give huge amounts of input here. Quentin Post was the guy they picked at number 52, big man from Boston College. I had him number 77. He averaged almost 22 points per 40 minutes, almost 2 threes, 10 rebounds, almost 4 assists, over 2 blocks, over a steal. They're really good numbers. I'm not certain how well Post will be able to translate across into the NBA. Obviously, they've still got Kevon Looney, there's Draymond Green, there's Trace Jackson-Davis. But there's a chance that Post could work his way into being a third string, maybe second string big man in the league. There's some interesting numbers there for him for sure at Boston College, but whatever. Like nothing super exciting. As a two-way, they signed Reese Beekman. I actually think that's a pretty good signing. I think Beekman can be an NBA backup point guard. They obviously lost Chris Paul, or they decided to move on from Chris Paul in free agency. We'll have later on today a free agency, what day one recap Paul has signed somewhere, San Antonio. We'll talk about that later on. But Beekman has a chance to get some minutes. The rest of their guys, Summer League signing Santi Vescovi, didn't have him ranked. Summer League signing of Mantas Rubstavicius, who played here down in Australia, well, technically in New Zealand, but in the NBL. He had him number 72, so we'll see what happens with that. And then Alan Flanagan to a Summer League deal at number 107 as well. Bit annoying to me that they let go of Lester Quinones in free agency too. Haven't got any new two-ways signed here at all. Like overall, it's just a fine draft class. There's nothing particularly good about it. But because it scores over 50 on my scale, they get one Jerry West, the Golden State Warriors do. But not a particularly interesting or inspiring overall draft class. It is what it is. The next team, the LA Clippers, a team that is going to be very different next season, obviously, because Paul George is gone. At the moment of me recording this, I don't know where, but he's definitely gone. And the Clippers, they're going to be very different. They did not have a first-round pick in this draft either, much like Golden State, but they used the second-round pick that they did end up with, I thought, pretty well. I think that Cam Christie could have been a first-round pick. We saw his brother Max get a 4-year, $32 million deal with the Lakers today. Cam Christie is like 18. He's a shooter. He averaged only 15 points per 40 minutes, a low-usage player, but almost 3 dribbles, 5 rebounds, a steal. He's almost stereotypical prototype shooting guard player. A long way to go, obviously. And the Clippers are in an interesting spot now with Paul George gone, with them moving on from Russell Westbrook apparently too. They did bring in Kevin Porter Jr., but Christie's not likely to be a rotation player immediately, and it may not ever happen. We're already seeing that with guys like BJ Boston. Keep an eye on Christie. Let's see how he develops. I like the pick. I had Cam Christie at number 32 here, but it is going to take a little bit of time. Their Exhibit 10s that they signed, Ray J. Dennis, who I had at number 76. Now, I do have Sean East on the list. Sean East didn't go to the Clippers. He actually went to the next team, the Lakers, so I apologize for that. I thought I'd removed it out of that graphic. But Ray J. Dennis, who I had at 76, I like bringing him in as an undrafted guy. And Trenton Flowers, who played down here in Australia, out of position for Adelaide. I thought he should have been drafted at the back end of the second round. They get him. He was my number 60th ranked player, Trenton Flowers. Well, maybe not should have been drafted. That's close to it. 58 picks, 60th on my board. Bringing him on as an undrafted guy, I would look to give Trenton Flowers a two-way and see if they develop him. But the Clippers have never been about developing players, really. So it's not an ideal position for him to be in, much like it's not for Christie or for Dennis, even though I do like all of those players that they picked. I think they got significant value in all of those selections. It's just a weird spot, and they have not been known for developing those sort of guys. Overall, because I think there's good value when they got solid players at the spots they have, they do get one Jerry West. Pretty solid enough for what they were working with in terms of the picks and the draft capital they had. Today's episode is brought to you by, as I bring the wrong screen up, it's brought to you by FanDuel. In the summer, we know that sports slow down. It's annoying. We all love sports. That's what we're here for. But that doesn't mean everything's done, because Major League Baseball is in full swing. The WNBA is rolling. You got PGA, you got NASCAR. I'm sure there's some disc golf floating around as well. You can have Summer League coming up. But FanDuel's got other things that'll get you interested too, because all summer long, FanDuel is hooking up every customer, not new customers, every customer, with a daily boost or a bonus. So that is every customer, every day, a boost or a bonus into your account. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. That brings us to talk about the third team in the Pacific Division. It is the Los Angeles Lakers. They had pick number 17 in this draft, and let's talk about what they did, because they, by many people's metrics, would have gotten the steal of the draft, allegedly. I disagree. Now, do not misconstrue this to think that I hate Dalton Knecht as a player. I don't. I think that he is totally fine. But when Dalton Knecht slid down to number 17 and the Lakers took him there, that's like, to me, that's not a slide. That's the area he should have been taken. Knecht, if you're not aware, is 23 years of age. Didn't do much in his first 2-3 years in college. Played junior college initially. Moved to Tennessee. Like 28 points per 40 minutes is great. 3.3 threes, 6 rebounds and 2 assists. A little on the low side. Relatively low defensive stats playing for Tennessee as well. He is never, I don't think, going to be tasked with the level of usage that he had in college. He's a pretty good shooter, but not an elite shooter. 40% from 3 is really strong, but not a good free throw guy. Not a good passer, not a good defender. I worry somewhat that some of the stuff that he did in college was based on his advanced age and really high volume, and he'll have neither of those advantages in the NBA. Picking him here, I think, is totally reasonable. It is not a terrible pick. I probably would have taken somebody else, but it's not a terrible pick. I don't think he will start for the Lakers. He might, but there's also no guarantee that the guys that you might think or somebody else thinks is the best shooter in the draft class turns out to be the best shooter, because we see it every single year. And while Knecht is a good shooter, he's more of a scorer than a shooter, I think. And we'll see how that plays out. There's still Vanderbilt there. There's still Hachimura there. There's still free agency. We don't know what they're going to do. So it's a fine pick. To me, it's not like this gigantic theft of a draft selection. This is about the right area for me. I think I had him at 18 or something on my last mock draft. So like right in this area. But like if you come into this one thinking, wow, they got a top 5 player, I just didn't agree with that. I think this is the right range, so they don't get a big boost here. At 55, they take LeBron James Jr., who I had at number 52. Cool. He's really not going to play very much. We all knew that this was going to happen, of them drafting him. He's not going to be on a two-way. He's going to be on a full contract, but he's just not going to play that many minutes. For fantasy-wise, it's just not going to happen that often. Like, it's fine. I think this is the right range for Bronny. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Now, as usual, I always tend to love what the Lakers do with their undrafted guys. That is usually where they clean up. They signed Blake Hinson, who's a real shooter, to a two-way. I had him number 80. That's solid. They signed Armel Traore, who I had at number 63, to a two-way. I love both of those signings. They brought in Sean East, who I had ranked 102 on an Exhibit 10, and Quincy Olivari, who I had at 103 on Exhibit 10. So I think all of that is really solid. I love what they did with the undrafted guys. Bronny is fine there. Connect is fine there. Or in the end, that ends up with one Jerry West. You might have thought it 2 because, again, if you think that Connect was a top 5 player, that would have been a 2. I don't think that, so I don't give him that designation in that spot. But overall, good value. Connect, I wouldn't imagine that he plays 25 minutes a night. I doubt that's going to be the case this year. Maybe it's 20, maybe it's 18. But there's still lots of things to play out in terms of free agency with all of these teams, basically. Next, we go on to look at the Phoenix Suns, a team that in the past has really just hated draft picks, hated scouting, but they're running into financial difficulties in terms of the apron and being able to use these picks. They ended up trading down, which saves them some money, and then they did get a higher pick in the second round also to be able to see if they can make an impact there. Now, Ryan Dunn is a player who I didn't quite have as a first-round guy. I had him at 38. He goes at 28 here. Dunn averaged a putrid 13 points per 40 minutes. He hit .3 threes. He cannot shoot or score. He is a non-offense player. He did average 11 rebounds as a 6'7" forward. He had 2.1 steals and 3.7 blocks per 40 minutes. Like, they are insane numbers. He is the best perimeter defender and the best defensive event generator in this entire draft. He might be the worst offensive player I've scouted ever, so that's a problem. On this team, though, with the lack of defense and the amount of offense they have, Dunn could work. My counter to that is they tried to do that with Josh Okogie and that complete lack of offense, and he's a way better player offensively than Dunn is. It couldn't work out. Now, Dunn is a significantly better player defensively, I think, than what Okogie is. So we'll see. Now, if Ryan Dunn was able to find a 25-minute a night role, which might be hard, they just signed Royce O'Neal to what seems like a crazily big contract. The minutes in the starting role is not really there. It's Beal, it's Durant, it's Booker, it's O'Neal, I'm guessing. Then it's Nurkic. So Dunn will probably be like trying to get some minutes in the second unit. He'll be an interesting blocks and steals stream guy. And we just keep an eye to see how it develops. But I think the offense is going to be really bad. Very low usage, very low efficiency. He probably needs to play like almost as a small ball center. We'll see how that works out. But I could easily see at some point him developing into a starter, 20-minute a night starter next to these high-level offensive guys. Then what they did at pick number 40 is they grabbed Oso Ighodaro from Marquette, who's a little bit undersized as a center, but I really love the athleticism and the defense is there. And outside of Yusuf Nurkic, who's 7 foot tall, and they are bringing back Bol, who's not really a center, but having Dunn and Ighodaro here, 2 undersized defensive guys, which enable them to play a lot more faster, small ball style basketball, which I think is an interesting way to go about it. The other thing we've got to give credit to with Dunn and with Ighodaro is that they have Mike Budenholzer as a coach now. And he is a player or a coach who gets unbelievable success out of his players in the regular season. He will change a scheme. Think about what he did in Atlanta versus what he did when he got to Milwaukee, the way he was able to change things for Brook Lopez and just make all those teams unbelievable in the regular season. He adjusts to what he has. And if he's like, we want to go a little bit smaller here, and they grab these guys, I'm interested to see where this goes. So I think both of those, even though I had Dunn at 38, I had Ighodaro at 47, I think the fits of both of them is pretty strong. I think that Budenholzer, if they show anything, will give them an interesting role or could give them an interesting role. And I like it quite a bit. What they did with their two-way slot is also something I really enjoy. Jalen Bridges probably should have been a second-round pick. I don't think that other teams ignored him. I think that it was an agent manipulation thing of we are going to Phoenix, don't draft us. He comes in immediately on a two-way. He's a forward who had lower usage than you expect at Baylor, but I do think that he can be an interesting shooting wing with some size and can defend a little bit. It might not turn into anything, but it's a really good spot for him. And I think he was obviously a priority of the Suns to get on that two-way after they'd already used their second-round pick on Ighodaro. So I had Bridges at 46, one spot ahead of Ighodaro on my big board. He comes to this team on a two-way. I like that. They had Tyrese Samuel come in on Exhibit 10, who I had 115th. The other two guys they've signed, Boo Buie, I think, whatever, didn't have him ranked, and Tyson Walker to a Summer League deal. I didn't have him ranked either. Overall, even though I am a little down on Dunn, I think that the positivity of this entire class gives this team one Jerry West. It's an overall positive rookie haul from the Phoenix Suns, which, I'm here for. I enjoy that for them. So now we have one team to go in the Pacific Division, and that is the Sacramento Kings, the only team in this division that did have a lottery pick, and it was barely a lottery pick. Pick number 13, Sacramento had, and they went with Devin Carter, which was something that a lot of people thought would happen. Now, the fact that they've still got Kevin Huerter, they still have Keon Ellis, they still have De'Aaron Fox, they re-signed Malik Monk, means that the path to minutes immediately for Carter are not super there. Like maybe he can force Huerter out of the rotation. Maybe he's better than Keon Ellis. In fact, he probably is. But it's not super clear that there is an easy let's jump in. If he outplays Keon Ellis, very easily possible. He could start, play 24 minutes a night. Monk closes, plays 30. Carter, the numbers are pretty good. Per 40 minutes, 22 points, 3 threes. He's an elite rebounder. 10 rebounds per 40 minutes as a guard. It's like 6'3", 6'2". He's small. 2 steals per 40 and 1.1 blocks. Now, the idea is that Devin Carter's this really good steals guy. 2 blocks per 40 is not amazing. It's good. It's not amazing. The 1 block is, the 10 rebounds for a 6'3" guard is. That is amazing stuff. There is a chance that he could be a Derek White type of player. He shot well from 3 this last season, but in the past had never been able to do that. There's also the possibility that he's Davion Mitchell, an undersized point guard who has a big jump in shooting percentages in his season before getting drafted, and then that falls away and he's useless, and they traded him away anyway, the Kings. But so Carter could be that new Mitchell for, I guess the position on the Kings roster, but even that player who has this lottery pick but isn't able to put that all through in the NBA. Now, I believe Carter's a little bit taller than Mitchell. I've got a little bit more faith in his shooting than I did in Davion's, but it is far from a guarantee. There is a chance that he starts, but there's also a chance he's the 5th guard behind Huerter, Fox, Monk, and Ellis. So we need to see where it all plays out for Devin this season. What they did with their two-way getting Isaiah Crawford, I love that. Now, Crawford had a couple of ACL injuries, which is not ideal. But he is like a guy that played some point guard for Louisiana Tech, but he's more of a small forward who put up big defensive numbers. He can pass. I think he's going to be able to shoot. I thought he should have been a second-round guy, but I don't know whether this was teams medical red flagging him or him being directed to the Kings by an agent to get this spot. Now, we know that they do have some forward depth issues, especially now losing Sasha Vezenkov. Not saying that Crawford's going to play a role immediately because two-way guys usually don't. But I like the landing spot. I like the value quite a bit of Isaiah Crawford there. They also brought in Isaac Jones on a two-way. I had him at number 99. And Boogie Alice on an Exhibit 10, who I had at number 88. So that's some pretty solid undrafted free agent signings. They also had to their summer league Lucas DeFeel, who I don't really know anything about, honestly, and Keenan Blackshear, who I didn't have ranked either. So overall, Devin Carter pick, I had him at 16. He's fine. There is some risk, but I think it works there. Isaiah Crawford, I love. Isaac Jones, whatever. Boogie Ellis, pretty good. Like some overall solid stuff from the Kings. Nothing unbelievably great. Nothing terrible. They end up with one Jerry West. So overall, I think the Pacific Division drafted pretty well. Pretty good results all around the board. No disasters. No, wow, that's an unbelievable haul. Nothing like that. Love what they did. Pretty strong stuff across all 5 of those teams. And that brings us to the end of the Pacific Division recap. That is 5 of the 6 NBA divisions done. I will endeavor to get the 6th one out today. Otherwise, it might come tomorrow. We'll see in terms of what I do with that free agency show as well. Well, that'll come out today, but whether the other draft show comes out today as well. In the meantime, if you want to know when these shows are coming out, hit the thumbs up on the subscribe button over at YouTube. Well, you don't thumb up the subscribe button. You just click both of those buttons, but you hit the notification bell as well. And that is really useful for helping out the show and making sure you never miss anything. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.